Hi, I'm Mark Gayler and I'm a Sony Digital Imaging Ambassador. Now this AF area registration tutorial is part of a larger A to Z menu series with over 30 videos that tackle different menu items in the Sony cameras that we're using. Now if that's not learning resources enough, then I do create 600 and 700 page ebooks for late model alpha cameras, and you can access these from my Sony Alpha support channel, which is patreon.com/Mark Gayler. Now, as well as the ebooks, there are also over 30 hours of video seminars you can watch. You can also download additional ebooks, access camera raw files for my lens and camera reviews, and also camera setup files. Now this AF area registration, what it allows us to do is register one focus area and then use a custom key to switch or toggle between those two focus areas that we're using. Now in order to do this, we deep dive into the menus. We're coming to the focus menu, the AFMF, that little purple one there. We're coming to AF area registration and switching that to on. Now that will be off by default. All we need to do to register a focus area is do a long press of that FN button. That'll be 3-4 seconds or so, and you'll get confirmation at the bottom of the screen that that focus area is now registered. Now the problem with registering the focus area doesn't mean say you can recall it quickly, because you don't do that by long pressing the FN button. You need to assign a custom key to recall that registered focus area. So we're not quite done yet. We need to head over to the setup menu. We're custom key dial set for stills, and then we need to choose a custom button that we're going to assign to recalling our registered focus area. Now I'm using the AF on button in this instance, but you could choose the AEL button or a button on the top of the camera, whichever is your preference. Now I've chosen register AF area toggle. That means you press it and you recall your registered area, press it a second time, and you go back to the focus area you were using prior to that registered focus area. Now there are another couple of options. You can choose registered AF area hold, which requires that you hold down the custom button to recall your registered focus area. And there is a third one, registered AF area plus AF on. Now that might be useful for some back button workflow users there. I've got a custom key that by default on a lot of my cameras there is assigned to focus area. It's usually on the top of the camera. In this instance, on this particular camera, it's the C2 button. That does change position on some of the cameras, such as the Alpha 7C2 and Alpha 7CR. So just check where that is registered to a custom key. You might also find it in the FN menu, so you don't generally have to deep dive into the menus to get to focus areas. Now the one that I'm going to register is AF tracking wide, and there is going to be a reason for this I'll explain later. Now in order to register that focus area, I'm going to long press the FN button on the camera, and that will now be registered. Now the reason I often use that tracking wide is it's basically a low maintenance focus area. With the latest model subject recognition, we often don't need to put a spot on a target, because the camera sees that this is a human, it sees where the face is, and then it will hone in on the eye, usually the leading eye of the subject. So we don't need to be chasing a subject around with a spot focus point most of the time. I'm going to change the focus area to tracking expand spot, which is another one of my favorite focus areas that I use. And I use this when the wide tracking is not doing its job properly. So I'll usually be using a tracking expand spot when my depth of field is very shallow, and also I want to pick a part of the subject where subject recognition might not be aware of which part of the subject you want in sharp focus. Now it'll often go for the center, but in some instances this area that I want to be in pin sharp focus will not be in the center of the frame, so I might move the expand spot to the left or right, up or down to target a particular area that I want in sharp focus. Now this isn't bang center, so I'm moving the expand spot and punching past the foreground obstacles to basically say to the focus tracking systems, track this small subject in the lower center part of the frame now. The camera with subject recognition might not be aware of which poppy that you want in sharp focus, so I can move this spot around in order to assign focus to a particular flower head. In some cameras, such as the cameras without a multi-selector, you might need to press the center button before you can move that expand spot around the screen, and then press it to lock that expand spot in position. Now I've chosen to recall my registered focus area, which is, if you remember, it's the tracking wide, because this is a subject that the camera will have no problem with. It will find the eye of the subject really easily, and I don't need to be using that tracking spot anymore. I've pressed the AF on button to recall my registered focus area, and the tracking spot that I was using previously will disappear from view. Now again, I'll be using that wide, and even when there's foreground obstacles, I often don't need to use that spot. So in this instance, it'll still find the woman even though she's wearing goggles, because the human recognition is so good on the modern cameras. But occasionally, if the camera is struggling to find the subject, you want to change from the focus area wide to a tracking expand spot. I'm not going to go into the focus menus to choose that focus area now. I'm simply going to press the custom key that I assigned to registered focus area to basically leave the registered focus area behind. Now I can start using the tracking spot again. In this instance, a guy is going to appear from the doorway. I know because I've seen a couple of other people appear from this doorway. So I'm going to place the expand spot onto that doorway so that when the next person appears, the focus will already be in that area. And in this instance, the human recognition might do a good job, but because of the deep shadow that the eye is in, I'm basically coming down to expand spot to make sure that that spot is on the eye. And this will give me a greater success rate in most instances. Now the problem with registering the expand spot is it's going to continually flash while you're using wider focus areas such as zone or wide. And that flashing registered focus area, if it is the expand spot, is going to slowly become slightly annoying. So if that does happen, then either recommend registering the wide focus area and then using the expand spot, or head over to the menus and delete the registered AF area, and that will remove that blinking spot from view. But I prefer to register the wide, so I never have that blinking second focus point slightly annoying me. So here I am using the registered focus area, which again is the tracking wide. Now if I do want to move over to the expand spot, just remember that I'm not going to go into the focus area menu, because I'm going to get a screen which says invalid during recalling of the registered focus area. If I do want to change that focus area, I really need to press the custom key that I assigned to the registered focus area. And then and only then will I be able to select another focus area, such as small spot or zone, etc. So that is an area that is a possible source of confusion when using this registered focus area feature here. Now I think there's an alternative to using this registered focus area, and it is one that I actually use. And so I'll run you through my workflow, even though I've outlined this particular workflow. And that is to come into focus area limit, which is available on the late model alpha cameras. Because if you're only using 2 or 3 focus areas, then there's pretty much no point in cycling through all of the other focus areas, and they seem to be growing on the very late model alpha cameras such as the Alpha 9 III and Alpha 1. There's even more focus areas to move through to find the one that you want to use. So I would just click on each of these options and unselect them basically, and then once you've done that you can select OK, and now I'll only be working with 3 tracking focus areas and 3 non-tracking focus areas. So now I'll come over to my custom key that is assigned. Usually there is a custom key assigned to focus area on most of the alpha cameras. So, and then I'm going to use the rear dial to move between the 3 tracking focus areas that I am now using, which is wide, zone and expand spot. I'll use the front dial to basically navigate vertically up the focus areas, but then I'll be using the non-tracking, and I rarely use those non-tracking focus areas. I would possibly only use them on static subjects. So here I am just rotating that rear dial one click to the left or one click to the right to access the focus area that I now want to change to. And I think this is pretty much as quick as the registered focus area workflow that I've outlined in this video tutorial. Now, if you need more support, just remember I've got a lot more information piled into these 600 and 700 page ebooks, and you will become a master of your camera by the time you've finished this ebook. If you want to download that, just head over to patreon.com/Mark Gaylor. You will get all of this information for just a 1-month subscription, which costs US $10. I'm Mark Gaylor, Sony Digital Imaging Ambassador, and I'll catch you online next time.